if you want something, then you kind of have to support it. I've kind of wanted to say that for a really long time. And I think that's the most professional way to say it. You know, like if you like live music, then you need to support it. And, we'll support people at a craft show, at a flea market and stuff. But, like music venues, just like any other business, needs your support.
This is All About the Song. Welcome to the 117th episode of All About the Song. I am your host, Michael McDonnell, and thank you for joining us. On the podcast today, we have Michael Novalski. This is his second time he's been on the podcast. His first episode was number 49. We do a great background story on him, so be sure to check that out. This episode focuses around Mike's summer work, artistic masterpiece. Well, he did a series on YouTube called Nova's Junction Revue. He recorded audio and video of fantastic artists that all reside in the Junction, and the videos are absolutely incredible. One of the things that my team, or Sounds Like Songs Network, we would leave our studio that was in the stockyards, and we were seeing all of these different musical events popping up in the area, doing what you could at the time. It was stage 4 in the summer when we recorded this, so people were out and about a little bit more than they are now. It was very cool, and we were very enamored with the fact that musicians and neighborhoods were just kind of doing something for the community, and to hear Mike was doing it one neighborhood over, I think it was definitely worth the conversation and catching up to see what he is up to. And now a quick word from our friends and sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Hailed, which is a coffee shop located at Yonge and Gerrard in downtown Toronto area. If you are a coffee drinker, you must try Hailed. They are ranked consistently among the top 10 coffee houses in Toronto. Visit the store and support local Toronto-based businesses. Be sure to place your order at www.hailed.ca. This episode is also brought to you by Flickly. Thank you, Richard Atkin, friend of the podcast. We really appreciate your support for the Canadian music scene. Rich is the founder and CEO of Flickly, a premier video animation studio, working with large brands and enterprises across the globe. Learn more about Rich and his work at Flickly by going to the website flickly.com, FLIKLI.com, and connect with Richard Atkin on LinkedIn. So here we are, episode 117 of All About the Song, featuring Michael Novalski. Michael Novalski, the return to the podcast.
Nice to be back.
Well, it's nice to see your face. How's everything been going with you?
Very good. Very good. Pretty intense, We think things have changed significantly since we last spoke.
No kidding.
Yeah, no kidding. So, making the best out of it from every sort of angle. I think, yeah.
Well, the thing that I've really enjoyed what you've been doing as of late, which is cool, is the live performances that you've been doing. Junction City Live, are you calling it?
I coined it Nova's Junction Revue.
Oh, that's even better. Oh, that's awesome.
It's even better. It's stolen from the Jason Collette. I think it was the Basement Revue, maybe at the Dakota that he had. But I wanted to record a band this summer because I have a whole bunch of gear. And I like to take it out every summer when I'm on holidays. But as a result of not being able to be inside, I was kind of stumped because I didn't know what to do. And I thought, why not? I always had a dream of recording bands in my backyard. And it kind of started like, from the 90s when, 4-tracks were around and you could just kind of have these DIY recording jobs. And I just thought, hey man, let's try it out. And it worked, and then like the first one worked and the second one worked. And then I kept going. And then I think I recorded about 12 or 11 different artists. I think there was a couple bands in there. And it just took. And I didn't really get in trouble. I did it at night. I did it outside, so it was safe and everything. And, at the end, I threw a street party, a socially distanced street party a couple weeks ago. And again, it went like really well. And people were really excited about music again.
That's so cool. Well, we're recording. So right now, since the last time we recorded, it was audio only. We're now doing video. I'm kind of down the street from you. I'm in the Stockyards area.
Oh.
One of the cool things that when we've been finishing up these sessions, we've been finding these little street performances. And
very cool.
One of the reasons why we particularly wanted to have you on is because you've been doing this on a grander scale, but it has been really nice to see neighborhoods coming together and maybe allowing, to get a little loud for a bit of time here and there. And just understanding that this is not a normal circumstance and people need to, have a release. And some neighborhood live music is a really good and pretty much safe way to be able to do something.
Absolutely. I think music, especially live music, is best received within a community, and in this case, in neighborhoods sort of became those communities, and anyone who's riding their bike by and may have seen the performance. But sometimes, neighbors don't really get the opportunity or the motivation to really come outside and interact with one another. And I can tell that, from the performances, it gave people on my street an opportunity to come out and get to know one another. And, I met a lot of people on my street because my wife and I just moved here about a year ago. And so there was that element of it too, that people, were social because they were utilizing their neighbors to kind of socialize and hang out and to sort of throw a little entertainment. People really dug that and people kind of wanted it. People came up to me and thanked me, because it was something that they had missed. And, you got to think outside of the box to give people what they need.
Well, it's totally true. And I think that in, previous generations, getting to know your neighbors would be something that we would aspire to do. And somebody would, have a barbecue in the summer or something like that. But we've kind of become more secluded over time. And now that, a lockdown transpired and we were actually just sequestered in our homes, I think it really, really forced the idea of, maybe taking that extra moment while you're taking your garbage cans out to wave hello to the neighbors and develop that community that we are so desperate for.
Yeah. I'm privileged to live in a neighborhood that I do, being the Junction. And, first off, I would have to say that people are extremely outgoing and friendly in the neighborhood. And so that's really great, and I don't know. I'm glad people did it. And I'm glad something like this gave people a push to sort of, look at their lives differently and maybe come out of their shells and do some new things. And that is hanging out with people they didn't really know.
Now, who were some of the acts that you have? I don't want to give away too many surprises because I know that there are still artists and still what we call them episodes or performances that you're releasing. But some of them that have come out already. Who have you premiered thus far?
The first one was Tennyson King. That was the first that was the pilot. That was the trailer, or the first episode that I did. I did it on my back patio, and my wife went up to see her brother, took the kids, and I thought, okay, this is an opportunity to make some noise and see if this is all going to work. The reel-to-reel machine was downstairs in the basement. All right, I had a 100-foot snake that I ran upstairs onto my patio. or I should say the amp that I was using, which is this guy right here, was in the kitchen, 3 mics on it. And then Tennyson was out on the patio singing, playing his guitar. The neighbors could hear it. The windows were rattling, but it was the first one. And it was so cool. He was such a cool guy, and it was such a great song. It was Wild Rose that he performed. And then we lip synced the video. We went up to a rooftop in the Junction, and we filmed that one afternoon. My buddy Lucas Stagg allowed us. He gave us the ladder.
Nice.
To go up there. Yeah. So Lucas was not Lucas, but Tennyson was the first one to kick things off. Then I had the Sad Boys Glee Club. And then Lucas Stagg. Yeah, I think I only did 3 that have aired. But, Mikey Manville from the Manvilles, he's coming up. The Sarandons are going to be on there too. Baby Shades lead singer Ryan Thompson. He's another guy. Jessica Stewart, Jesse from the Reconnecting. I know I'm forgetting a few. And a new guy that I just met. His name is Jordan Paul from Hamilton. Amazing.
Oh, nice.
Amazing performer. He came by a couple of weeks ago and one Friday, and I opened up the garage door and we did it one more time. And beautiful video coming out, and he's an excellent singer-songwriter from Hamilton, and he's just got a beautiful voice. And so I can't wait to show his. I'm probably forgetting 1 or 2 people, but that's good. That's what I did.
Well, we will have links to the whole thing at the description of this episode. But what Sweet. I think is so amazing, I was reading Jessica Stewart's Instagram post about doing this, and she discussed the fact that in a year she would play hundreds of gigs. She's, a prolific songwriter, but she hosts 2 weekly nights herself alone in the city. Yep. To go from, 300, 250, 300 gigs to 1. It's got to be, well, I know it's surreal. It's just such a change to what you regularly do and what you're pushing for artistically. It's just such a different landscape.
Absolutely. It's a withdrawal, that some people have had to experience, maybe, obviously athletes may sort of feel that withdrawal, getting together to play a sport game. I know nothing of that, but, people do play sports. I don't, but just not being able to get together with your friends and practice, write music, record, more importantly, to play a show, it's while you were saying that, I was just automatically thinking like the withdrawal that you're going to experience in your life, and it's, we all feel it, I think, and it sucks.
It does.
But at the same time, it kind of boils, and I think some of us, almost want to like strike back with a vengeance, because, you can't be held down, and I think some artists, it just drives them crazy. Like I knew that if I didn't do what I did in the laneway this summer, I probably it would have been very stressful and very difficult, and I confessed to one of my neighbors that like, I lost myself in these videos, it wasn't sort of intentional, but there's a lot of stress, and if you're a musician, if you're an artist in any nature, you put your heart and soul into what it is that you're doing, and so to have that sort of taken away from you during a pandemic where you can't interact with your loved ones, it's super tough, and anyways.
No, I'm feeling it, and it's.
Did you feel that? How did you feel?
I've been. It's unique. So there's a band that I just started playing in. That's like and you and I have discussed, musical things for, maybe like 12, 15 years at this point. And I joined a band that was a total package. Like there was all the pieces in play, and it was a circumstance that we all felt really fortunate about. It's a band called Kadima, and it was just like all ready to go. And it had all the pieces were put together at the exact right moment. And we performed one show, and it was at the Dakota Tavern. It went so well. everyone, it was like a champagne moment without the champagne at the end, where everyone was toasting, being like, this is going to work. Like, I don't know what it's going to lead to, but this is going to work. And we can really push this project forward. And then it stopped. And we did get together this summer. We had a rehearsal with nothing to do. I knew a really big room in the city with a bunch of gear. And it was just the opportunity to see each other and play. And we walked out of that rehearsal factory, and it wasn't the rehearsal factory, a rehearsal place that looked like a factory. And we felt it. We were just like, oh man, I needed that. Like, I just needed to let loose and get that energy out. There's another band I perform in, Jumple. They're all being very careful. They have young children, and I've just been sending messages with them. Like, it starts with like, hey, happy birthday, hope you're well. And now it's like, hey man, I miss you. Like, this is the longest I've, since meeting you, gone without, seeing you. And like, when you're in an artistic, a creative group, when you're a cog in the wheel, like, it's all for one for all. And to not be there with them, and for it not to have like we're ending, or just like a cut. It's been really weird. Though there's a artist, Dr. Draw, that I've been performing with, and he's been really fortunate to have different alternative circumstances to perform shows. And we've been doing them at the side of the Redwood Theater. And we've been able to, we had a lot of like cockeyed ideas, like, let's go to the park and let's just play and do that kind of stuff. And we decided not to. And we just did, straight performances. And we really appreciated every show and every moment. And before every gig, there were 4. Before every gig, we kind of looked at each other, was like, this could be the last one, so let's make it count. Whereas, the summer before, we'd like show up, be like, all right, let's do this, I guess. Okay, I got to get out of here, and it really reminded me how special these circumstances are to be able to do something creative with a group of people.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I hope to, like, I hope we can, because people are talking these days, especially with a lot of venues sort of struggling during this time, so many people are talking about how, I haven't seen a live show, it's like people are starting to talk about this, because, it does leave this sort of emotional emptiness in you,
Mm-hmm.
And,
do you feel like going to shows in 2019, early 2020? I felt like the audience were disenchanted. They have so much just content and stimulus being thrown at them that going to a live show wasn't important anymore.
I think, that's where I was going with this, and that is that, there was a lot of live show stuff. There was a lot of stuff, and, like if you think about the first couple of times or some of the concerts that you went to, maybe as a teenager, and you're just like, this is cool stuff, like I saw One Step Beyond. They were an acid jazz instrumental band from Toronto. And I walked into the Opera House when I was like 16, and there were tall Rastas with dreads. There was smoke and incense and weed and everything. And it was the greatest music on stage at that time, and it was just amazing, and those experiences, you gotta be able to connect. I hate to say it, but you gotta be able to connect with the band anyways. And sometimes all the media can get in the way. The reason why you're at the show could also get in the way. There's a lot of promotional things for shows, where, you need people to fall in love with an album and go see a show. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of like really the best reason to go see a show, and where you can just really connect, and it leaves a really great moment in your life.
Or to even go to a show to fall in love. That's my favorite. Like, I think the nucleus to a developing band putting on like a good show is that like if this person meets that person and that person meets this person and they start dating and maybe they get married and then, this happens and this happens. And by the time this band has a fifth or sixth show and they're kind of moving up in the ranks slowly but surely, all the people that were going to their, very first gigs at these small venues and stuff like that are now friends. And there's like this community growing up. And then, all of a sudden the opening act for this band has started to join in and it creates this hub. And then all of a sudden you have a scene. And
I don't know about that.
But I did feel like there was an absence of that organic development because people were just looking at their phones. And I know that that's very like back in my day, but I'm on stage and I get to stare at everyone. And I just don't think that people were there to listen to music anymore. They were there to be there.
Am I allowed to say something about a concert that I went to where I felt I experienced that?
Yeah, sure.
The War on Drugs, like their second last album, I think everybody just anticipated it. Like it was some of the, I forget what the song was, the one about the ocean and the wave or whatever, and it was being played on, the radio stations, and I think they played some festival or whatever. Point is that like they were big at that time, and I walked into the Phoenix and I was pumped because I want to see this show. I listened to the album in my living room all summer. And I walked in and I was just like, yo, do people actually want to be here? You guys, it just seemed like, people were just playing the cool to be cool thing. And it kind of ruined the vibe. I don't know.
It happens. And I see it. And I don't want us to come across as like a couple old farts being like back in my day. But no. I really do feel like there's an essence of and a point to live music and the feeling that you get as an audience. And I started to notice that the people that would come to me after a show and talk to me about, hey, that was not to be like, you were good, but this was good. Yeah. We're progressively getting older and older and older. And
I think, yeah, you know what? I think there are some smaller venues throughout the city and even throughout different neighborhoods, that really, and it's really fortunate when something like that happens, but even like a local kind of bar or pub or venue are able to just get good people out who enjoy live music. Like Grossman's Tavern. Mm-hmm. Like I love that place. Like if you're having a bad day, walk into Grossman's and your mood is going to change instantly. It's the diviest of divers, right? But Caution Jam, on a Saturday night is wonderful. And so, it has a built-in audience and people just love going to shows and to venues that kind of cater to those sort of smaller audiences who just love hanging out,
I think not to kind of go away from the negative. I think the thing that you and I fell in love with music and that experience, and especially in the sense that, you began promoting shows and have been doing so for a very long time. Obviously, there was something that you saw that you wanted to, push further with or see through, or if it wasn't happening, you wanted to create it to maintain that environment and that organic feeling of going to a show and listening to loud music and dancing around and letting go and leaving and feeling relieved in a sense.
I went to some all ages shows in high school, with like Treble Charger and the Rainbow Butt Monkeys and Len and all of those bands. And from start to finish, man, like from the second you woke up on the Saturday to, the minute you came home and like crashed, you knew it was going to be a good day because you were going to a show, and like, what were you going to wear? I'm just going to go off on a tangent, man, because it was just all so much fun, taking the subway downtown, going down to Queen Street and everything. Like that was the whole experience of going to a show. And I don't know, like, I think kids kind of feel that more these days, or at least I did. I don't know if I could say that we did. There's just so much that went into, putting those shows on and getting the people together. And it was just fun. It was just fun. I can't stress that even anymore. Yeah.
I remember doing that with my friends who were 13. First off, going to the Big Bop for the first time. The other one, though, was Not by Choice at Yonge and Dundas Square.
I knew someone in Not by Choice. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. They were like the coolest band because that song was so big on Much Music. We were allowed to go without our parents, and it wasn't a punk show. It was very 15 to 17-year-olds, but it was just excitement. And I really do hope when all said and done, we're able to go back to the venues that remain, which is another just horrible thing. But I really do hope that everyone appreciates what we weren't able to do for a period of time. And if it's not music, it's whatever it is that you can't do, in a sense.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I think some of us love going to shows, and we go every week, and then sometimes I feel that like with some venues or just with some sort of like little pockets, it's just like wine tasting, like you got to know who the bands are.
Yeah.
You got to follow them on Instagram, because Toronto has a scene, right? Just like every sort of major city has a scene, different neighborhoods, different labels, different genres, they've got their scenes and their groups and everything like that. But, I think it also kind of, is helpful, and it's kind of makes things a little bit more interesting when you find a band and you just kind of like, yeah, like let's kind of find out about this band, because people put out content left, right, and center, So sometimes if something, if a band does like a Cure cover, or like a cover by the Smiths or something like that, you're like, oh yeah, I love that song, So people are always trying to throw out information. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, it's great when people can connect to a band and a band can connect to people, or their listeners, and we kind of have that with social media. And so I guess if, once things get started up again in a year or 2 or 10 years, that's part of it, because I think people need that relationship, and bands need that relationship, and also need that support too. And it makes it kind of more intriguing for the listeners as well, if they know that background information on the band.
Oh, well, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of this podcast is also just to bring light to these stories behind the song you might hear and kind of understand as to why. And in this case, for example, I mean, you and I met, you were promoting the Etobicoke music scene at the time. You're currently, or you were the booking agent at the Junction City Music Hall. And
yes.
Your relationship with booking bands, and I mean, how do you feel? What's your input on the state of the venues in the city?
It all depends on the investors. I guess I'd have to say, because venues I don't see are going to be opening anytime soon, and so it's just a question of how much people can afford to pay on a room or on a venue that isn't making any money. I also have heard that insurance prices and costs have skyrocketed, which makes it very difficult for a venue to open and then sustain itself, and then have this additional financial burden of just an increased insurance cost. So, like when you hear things like that, it kind of sucks because like there's no hope for venues.
No, and this isn't just the smaller venues in the city. This is every venue in the city in a sense when it comes down to insurance. Like this is all of them.
Yeah. It's interesting that a place like the Orbit Room, for example, closed right away. There were some, even some businesses, Vesuvio's Pizza in the Junction closed instantly. Mm-hmm. This COVID thing is coming. We're done, for whatever reason, but there were some venues that said, we're not even going to try to ride this out. We're just done.
It's hard. And I do understand that there are a lot of venues where you have owners that have done this for a labor of love, and they're in their twilight years, for example, and they understand that the cash is in the building at a certain point of time, and that this operation that they've run, if it no longer works and they're going to retire, like the best thing for them to do is to sell. And I understand that, and I commend the different people that have, like, This Ain't Hollywood in Hamilton, for example, or the Rivoli. I commend these people to say, like, you've held these venues open for so long, and the offers have just been coming in constantly. And at a certain point in time, like, you have to do what's right for you. And, you know, you're like, yeah, but we got this really great jazz night on Wednesdays we want to keep up. It's like, or set yourself up for the rest of your life. You're going to make those decisions. It's just, it's understandable. I'm curious to see if you think, or if you have thought of how the landscape of venues will look when it comes back.
Well, I hate to be called well, I think outdoor shows are the way to go. Mm-hmm. And that's why I put one on my street. You're outdoors, it brings people out. I think one of the difficulties with shows is that they're late, right? They're late at night. Some people, some people don't like going out at night, they still want to sort of see live music. They'll go to Pedestrian Sundays in Kensington and they'll love the live music, but, they won't necessarily go see a live band just because it's too late or it's far away from their house. But like, venues cost a lot of money to operate, and they're a really tricky business to financially stay afloat. That's just the reality of it. And I think you're going to see more event spaces, to be quite honest with you. I think that's going to be something really huge is our event spaces. I think venues are great, and I think that we need venues, but I don't know how financially they're going to be able to sustain themselves. Does this sound pessimistic?
Realistic.
The thing is that, like, if you want something, then you kind of have to support it. I've kind of wanted to say that for a really long time, and I think that's the most professional way to say it. Like, if you like live music, then you need to support it. And we'll support people at a craft show, at a flea market and stuff. But, like, music venues, just like any other business, need your support. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, I just feel like there are going to be fewer venues, and they're probably going to suck because they're going to bring in crazy acts at really high costs. Or there's going to be fewer venues, unfortunately. Yeah.
I think the thing that sometimes happens, and I've been following, one of the biggest things with podcasting that I got into is the LA comedy scene. And a lot of those podcasts are things that I followed. And when I initially got into them, the podcasts weren't that popular, the venues weren't that packed, and it was a slow build. But one of the things that I think we're going into is one of the largest declines in live music that we'll ever see. And one of the things that I hope comes out of it, as bad as it's going to get and continue to, is that maybe with less venues, maybe, a Mike Novalski is going to be given the opportunity to put together like these stellar lineups, in the sense that there's not going to be 13 venues with 4 bands on every night. And you're going to be able to curate high quality shows, and people are going to look to, a Thursday night knowing that it's the cream of the crop, and kind of develop the music scene from there again, in the sense of like putting a scene together.
We're back to the opening scene, aren't we?
Well, yeah. And I really do think that is where we're headed, in the sense that, and you would begin, and I related to what you had said with regards to your review in the sense of people bike riding by. And I did live shows, and there are people in the East End that would just see us performing on Gerrard, biking by, stop, pull a Yui, and stay for 3.5 hours because they're like, this is the highlight of my summer.
Isn't that weird? You know, like imagine if, I don't know, people did that regularly.
Yeah.
You know, because it was either widely accepted or widely needed, you know. I with this laneway sort of project of mine, I'm doing it every year. You know, I'm actually thinking about putting together like an instrumental band for some shows, you know, next summer in the laneway. I'm going to do it because that's what I want to do. You know, I want to create events, experiences for people. And I think that's a cool one. You know, I think that's neat. You know, you can bike there, you can come through the laneway in the junction, you know, and you can just hang out. And it's very casual and it's hypnotic too. It really is. It sends people off. It's wonderful.
Well, I got to commend you because ever since I met you in a basement strip mall in Etobicoke, and you put on one of the greatest shows that I was part of and experienced. I was the first show that I had a driver's license to drive to, which also factors into it. But it was like that taste of freedom, and to go to a show, it was just absolutely magical. Ever since I've met you, you've always had something on the go to push culture and creativity through, regardless of where you're at in your life. You've always figured out a way to do something to make you creatively fulfilled. And it's been absolutely amazing though. But it's true. Like,
wow.
But truthfully, like, since I'm 32 now, so the last 17 years, you have always been pushing something forward. And I think this most recent development has been absolutely fantastic. And I unfairly look forward to the next thing that you do to push it forward, because I know you won't stop. But I will ask you to conclude, yes, what's next for you?
Hopefully child number 3 isn't the response to that. No, but a label. Yeah, it's time to put a label together, and many people, you know, in my seat right now would say, like, I know nothing about putting a label together, but I'm just going to do it anyways. And so it would be stupid for me to kind of say something like that or admit to something like that, but I'm going to put a label together, and I don't really know what it's going to look like, and I don't really know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure out a way, and I'm going to make it happen, because that's kind of what I really enjoy doing. I've found this new love for sort of making videos. I love my reel-to-reel machine, and I love recording bands. And, I know I have a specific aesthetic, and I'm learning, because there's just so much to learn when you kind of are interested in photography and in videos and in recording. There's so much to learn. But yeah, man, it's just things that I want to push forward, and people that I really enjoy working with. So I hope there's some way that I can organize other people's creativity in a very effective way, or help them organize their ideas and, like I said, their creative efforts, and then sort of, present those to a larger audience, and how to help cultivate an audience to receive music that I sort of believe in, and that from people that I sort of love and care about. So that's kind of, I think, what is going to be the next thing. And once I put my record player back up, this
Moonbeams, the Bill Evans Trio.
Oh yeah. Can I do another plug?
Absolutely.
All right, because I know this is weird. Rolling Blackout Coastal Fever, their new album, Sideways to New Italy. Love it. Love the bass in that. You might like the bass. Kind of reminds me of REM a little bit. Anyways.
Congratulations, Mike. I really forward to watching all your review videos on video.
Thank you very much.
You're the best. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You
See
got
you,
it.
Mike.
See you, Mike. I'd like to thank Mike for being on the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or a suggestion for a guest you'd like to hear on an episode, send us an email, allaboutthesongpodcast@gmail.com. For past episodes, check out our website, www.allaboutthesongpodcast.com. On YouTube, please subscribe, leave us a comment. If you're listening on audio, check out the video. This is the 9th recorded episode. Also, we have a sister podcast on the Sounds Like Songs network. It's called Everything But the Song by Tal Weisman, and it's an excellent podcast. I don't know who he has on this week, but check it out. If you need some more musical podcasts, we've got you covered. And for Michael Novalski, I'm Michael McDonnell. Episode 117 is in the books. We'll see you next week.